Today in our spotlight, President Trump's immigration crackdown takes a new turn. The White House is now considering deporting migrants across the Atlantic to Libya, and it could start as soon as this week. According to officials familiar with the plans, the deportees would be flown to the African nation by military plane. President Trump says he doesn't know about the plans, directing reports to the Department of Homeland Security. And ABC has since reached out to DHS, but has not yet received a response. Meantime, the legal battle has already started, with attorneys representing migrants in Boston already filing an emergency motion in federal court. Let's bring back my panel, Mike, Tiffany, John, and Anthony. Good to see you guys. All right, Tiffany, this report comes as the White House is still dealing with the fallout from those controversial deportations to El Salvador. So what do you make of this?
Well, let's not forget that under Joe Biden, millions of criminals came into our country, drugs, fentanyl that is killing Americans on our streets. So President Trump has been clear from the very beginning, and this is sending exactly the message that the Trump administration and the Department of Homeland Security wants to illegally enter our country or cause chaos and disorder, and there will be consequences to pay. So the Department of Homeland Security has been clear that those being sent are illegal immigrants that have no right to be in our country. They are here illegally. So thanks to the tireless work of our immigration customs enforcement, we are seeing dangerous criminals being taken off the streets and protecting Americans' lives. So from my perspective, if Democrats and legacy media had it their way, these criminals would still be roaming free. And, you know, we have to remember, this is exactly the issue that Donald Trump was elected on, protecting our communities. Every state in this country became a border state under Joe Biden. So President Trump is simply delivering on his promises to the American people.
All right, John, a federal judge is pushing back, saying removing non-citizens to Libya would, quote, clearly violate this court's order. What does this say about the rule of law in our country?
Well, I mean, voters certainly sent a message at the last election that this is an issue that they really care about, immigration, border security, and the way that their communities feel. But at the same time, there is still something to be said for rule of law and the Constitution in this country. I don't think what voters sent was President Trump the initiative to have carte blanche control over ignoring those basic American tenets. Human rights organizations are saying that these Libyan prisons that people are talking about are hellscapes, are, quote, black holes, quote, without any oversight. So there's a way to do this while still also making sure that we live up to our common values. This is not who we are as Americans.
And Anthony, we saw the reaction to the El Salvador deportations. How much pushback will Trump face if he sends migrants to Africa?
Well, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of pushback. We're going to hear that they're being sent to a place that has social and political unrest. But I want to really go back to what Tiffany was saying. And we keep hearing this phrase that we want to give them the American opportunity and their American rights. They are not Americans. They came into this country illegally. 15 million people, nearly 15 million people flooded this country under the failed leadership of Joe Biden. And Donald Trump made it very clear throughout his campaign that one of his first actions was going to be to secure the border and to remove illegal migrant criminals from the United States of America. But yet each time that his administration announces how they are going to deport these individuals, there is, just the Democrats are losing their minds and in such surprise. There's no surprise here. They came here illegally. They don't have American rights. They're being deported because they came here and they are criminals.
Mike, I definitely want to get your take on all of this.
Well, DeMarco, it's a lot to take in, but I think it's always interesting to hear this conversation about American, they're not American, un-American, and not. The bottom line is that no matter how you feel about this issue, that the Constitution entitles everyone to have due process. The Constitution doesn't say for American citizens. It doesn't say nationalized citizens, right? It doesn't say those who were born here. It just says that you have the right to due process. This is why I'm excited for this case to go to the Supreme Court, so that that could be settled law on the Constitution if the Supreme Court chooses to interpret it that way. But the Constitution does not explicitly state American citizens have due process. It says people have due process here in America. The second thing, DeMarco, I find really interesting, well, before I talk about that, the important thing about the due process is to make sure these people are who we say that they are, right? That they're not just getting grouped up into tropes or stereotypes of why they believe that they should have committed a crime when maybe they haven't done it. And I think that's what's important of due process, because that gets into a slippery slope, because we've seen too far often justice being handled inappropriately for individuals who have fit a certain type. And then as it come later to find out that that wasn't the case at all. Just the important process of due process. You know, we're coming off of the previous segment about the Pope and Christianity. I'm a Christian. And DeMarco, when you think about Christianity, when you think about the commandment, the biggest commandment of them all is agape love. I think about the situation in the detention center in Libya, even how European countries uses Libya as a deterrent, which has apparent conditions. And I'm wondering the way that we create punitive nature for individuals who are looking for better circumstances and new opportunity. And so just something to be said about the previous segment about the Pope and agape love and Christianity roped into due process. There's an intersectionality at play here.
Tiffany, your response or reaction to Mike?
Yeah, well, I would like to say, you know, criminals who are here murdering Americans and killing American kids and bringing fentanyl across the street. I don't know where that due process is. You're a criminal, you're here illegally. Certainly have love for everyone, but we are not America if we do not have a secure border. And foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States.
And it's a hot button issue for so many.
So Tiffany, Tiffany. So no. I want no. So Tiffany, hold on.
Let's let Mike respond, Anthony. 1 second.
Anthony, I was talking, Anthony.
1 second, Anthony. Go ahead, Mike.
Directed towards me.
Go ahead, Mike.
That comment's directed toward me. Tiffany, I'm not saying if these people go to due process and determine that they are murderers, yes, they need to leave this country. If they go through this due process and say they're the ones bringing in fentanyl, then yes, they need to leave this country. But Tiffany, is there evidence that all those migrants that have been sent to these prisons, had they been found guilty of murder? Are these the individuals who are responsible for bringing fentanyl in? That is a case for. And if they are here illegally, they have a right to the due process. I'm not saying they shouldn't be here, and we need to look at comprehensive immigration, but it's the part of due process, Tiffany, that is important. And when we do that, we create a slippery slope here in America where we open up the floodgates for due process not to be applied to American citizens.
And Tiffany and Mike, let me give Anthony the last 10, 15 seconds. Go ahead, Anthony.
Sure.
We are combining immigration and border security. This is a violation of border security. If we're going to refer to the Constitution as the law of the land, the law of the United States of America, these individuals violated the law of our land just by entering this country. They can't have it both ways. President Trump said they were being deported. They are being deported.
And John, I can't go to break without hearing from you. Any comments?
Yeah, there's a lot that's said about due process, and there's a lot said about human rights. And I think at the end of the day, I'm for human rights here in America, and I'm here, I'm for human rights everywhere. That's who we're supposed to be as a country. So yes, I think that voters have sent a message that we need to do something on the border and immigration, but at the end of the day, it needs to reflect our values as a country.
The panel has spoken. Mike, Tiffany, John, and Anthony, stick around. We'll have much more.